Somewhere beneath the ruins of ancient Alexandria, one of history's most famous queens may still be waiting to be found. Cleopatra VII ruled Egypt, negotiated with Rome, commanded immense wealth, and became a legend that survived for more than 2,000 years. Yet no archaeologist has ever conclusively identified her final resting place. Ancient writers claim that Cleopatra was buried beside the Roman general Mark Antony after their dramatic deaths in 30 BCE. Their tomb was reportedly magnificent, filled with royal treasures, and designed to preserve their names for eternity. Alexandria was later transformed by earthquakes, rising seas, warfare, rebuilding, and the gradual destruction of its ancient monuments. As the centuries passed, the location of Cleopatra's mausoleum disappeared from historical memory. Today, some researchers believe it lies beneath the modern streets of Alexandria, while others search in temples far beyond the city. Every statue, tunnel, coin, and hidden chamber renews the hope that the legendary queen may finally be discovered. But is Cleopatra's tomb truly still hidden beneath Egypt, or was it destroyed long ago without leaving a trace? Cleopatra VII was born around 69 BCE into the Macedonian Greek dynasty that had ruled Egypt since the age of Alexander the Great. She inherited a kingdom famous for its grain, gold, scholarship, religious traditions, and strategic position in the Mediterranean. Unlike many earlier members of her dynasty, Cleopatra reportedly learned the Egyptian language in addition to speaking Greek and several other languages. She presented herself not merely as a Greek monarch, but as a legitimate Egyptian pharaoh. Her public image connected her closely with Isis, the powerful goddess of motherhood, kingship, healing, and divine protection. Cleopatra came to the throne in 51 BCE and initially ruled alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy II. A bitter struggle for power soon forced her from Alexandria and threatened to end her reign. Her fortunes changed after the Roman general Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt during his pursuit of Pompey. Cleopatra secured Caesar's support, defeated her political enemies, and returned to the throne. From that moment, her survival depended on maintaining Egypt's independence while navigating the dangerous politics of Rome. Cleopatra's relationship with Julius Caesar produced a son known as Caesarion, whom she presented as Caesar's child and her future co-ruler. She later traveled to Rome and remained there until Caesar was assassinated in 44 BCE. After returning to Egypt, Cleopatra faced a Mediterranean world, divided by another Roman civil war. She eventually formed a political and personal alliance with Mark Antony, one of Rome's most powerful commanders. Antony needed Egypt's wealth and resources, while Cleopatra needed his military protection and political influence. Their relationship produced 3 children and created a powerful Eastern court centered on Alexandria. In the donations of Alexandria, Antony granted territories and royal titles to Cleopatra and their children. His rival Octavian portrayed these actions as evidence that Antony had betrayed Rome for a foreign queen. Roman propaganda transformed Cleopatra into a dangerous seductress who supposedly intended to conquer the Roman world. The conflict between Octavian and the rulers of Egypt soon became a war that would decide the future of the Mediterranean. In 31 BCE, the forces of Octavian confronted Antony and Cleopatra near Actium on the western coast of Greece. The naval battle ended with Antony and Cleopatra breaking away from the fighting and sailing back toward Egypt. Their remaining allies gradually surrendered as Octavian prepared to invade their kingdom. Cleopatra returned to Alexandria and attempted to protect her treasury, her children, and the future of her dynasty. She also ordered the completion of a monumental structure that ancient writers described as her mausoleum. The building may have served as both a royal tomb and a secure place for storing the wealth of the Ptolemaic court. According to ancient accounts, Cleopatra moved gold, silver, pearls, ivory, precious stones, and flammable materials into the monument. She apparently threatened to destroy these treasures if Octavian tried to seize them. When Octavian entered Alexandria in 30 BCE, Antony and Cleopatra had nowhere left to escape. Their final days unfolded between the royal palace and the unfinished tomb that may still contain the answer to history's greatest archaeological mystery. False information reached Antony that Cleopatra had already taken her own life. Believing the report, he attempted to kill himself with his sword. The wound did not immediately kill him, and he soon learned that Cleopatra was still alive inside her mausoleum. Antony asked to be carried to the monument so that he could see her one final time. Cleopatra had reportedly sealed the lower entrance because she feared being captured by Octavian's soldiers. She and her attendants lowered ropes from an upper window and slowly pulled the wounded Antony inside. Ancient accounts describe Cleopatra struggling desperately as Antony's blood covered the side of the building. Once inside, Antony asked for wine and died in Cleopatra's arms. His death ended the career of one of Rome's most powerful generals, but deepened the legend of the queen who had joined her fate to his. If the ancient story is accurate, Antony died inside or very near the same monument in which he would eventually be buried. Octavian captured Cleopatra, but wanted to keep her alive, possibly so that she could appear in his victory procession in Rome. For a defeated monarch, being displayed as a prisoner would have represented the ultimate humiliation. Cleopatra had seen what happened to other enemies of Rome and understood that her kingdom could not be restored. She requested permission to visit Antony's body and performed mourning rituals for him. Ancient writers then described her bathing, dressing in royal clothing, and sharing a final meal with her attendants. The traditional story claims that a venomous snake was hidden inside a basket of figs and delivered to her chambers. Other theories suggest that Cleopatra used a prepared mixture of poisons rather than allowing a snake to bite her. The exact method of her death remains uncertain because the surviving accounts were written after the event and contain conflicting details. When Octavian's men entered the room, they found Cleopatra dead and one of her attendants adjusting the royal diadem on her head. Even in defeat, Cleopatra had denied Octavian the chance to parade the last queen of Egypt through the streets of Rome. Before her death, Cleopatra reportedly sent Octavian a letter asking to be buried beside Antony. Ancient writers stated that Octavian honored her request and ordered the lovers to receive a royal funeral together. Plutarch described their burial as splendid and regal, but did not provide precise directions to the tomb. The mausoleum was probably located somewhere within or near Alexandria's royal quarter. This district included palaces, gardens, temples, administrative buildings, and structures associated with the Ptolemaic dynasty. Cleopatra's close identification with Isis may mean that her tomb stood near a sanctuary dedicated to the goddess. The monument was likely designed during Cleopatra's lifetime, as constructing royal tombs in advance was a common ancient practice. However, no surviving inscription identifies its architecture, exact dimensions, or location. Roman authorities may have removed its treasures, while later rulers may have altered or reused the building. The disappearance of these details created an empty space into which generations of historians placed their own theories. Ancient Alexandria was built along a coastline repeatedly affected by earthquakes, land subsidence, tsunamis, and changing sea levels. Significant sections of the Ptolemaic royal quarter eventually collapsed beneath the waters of the eastern harbor. Underwater archaeologists have discovered columns, statues, foundations, paved surfaces, and massive stone blocks across the submerged landscape. Researchers have also identified remains associated with the island of Antirrhodos, where ancient sources placed part of the royal palace complex. These discoveries demonstrate that monuments connected to Cleopatra's court really do survive beneath the Mediterranean. Her mausoleum could therefore be underwater, buried beneath layers of sediment and fragments from collapsed buildings. Searching this environment is extraordinarily difficult because visibility is limited and the ancient structures are scattered across the seabed. Centuries of harbor construction and urban development have further disturbed the archaeological remains. Even if a chamber were discovered, proving that it belonged to Cleopatra would require inscriptions, recognizable royal objects, or human remains supported by strong evidence. The sunken city remains one of the most convincing locations for the lost tomb, but it is not the only place where archaeologists are searching. Another theory leads approximately 45 kilometers west of Alexandria to the ancient site of Taposiris Magna. The city was founded during the Ptolemaic period near Lake Mareout and the Mediterranean coast. Its name is commonly interpreted as referring to the Great Tomb of Osiris. At the center of the settlement stood a temple complex associated with Osiris and the religious traditions surrounding his death and resurrection. Osiris was the divine partner of Isis, the goddess with whom Cleopatra closely identified herself. This religious symbolism has encouraged the theory that Cleopatra chose the temple as a secret burial place for herself and Antony. Dominican archaeologist Kathleen Martinez has led a long-running search for the tomb at Taposiris Magna. Her team has explored temples, burial chambers, shafts, tunnels, and cemeteries across the site. The excavations have produced important evidence from the late Ptolemaic and early Roman periods. Yet no discovery made there has conclusively demonstrated that Cleopatra and Antony were buried at Taposiris Magna. Archaeologists at Taposiris Magna have uncovered coins bearing Cleopatra's image, revealing activity at the site during her reign. They have also discovered statues, figurines, pottery, jewelry, amulets, and objects connected with religious worship. Some burials contained gold tongues intended symbolically to help the dead speak before the gods. Mummies and tombs found near the temple suggest that people of high status considered the area a sacred place of burial. A carved stone head and a small marble statue, have both been proposed as possible representations of Cleopatra. However, specialists have debated these identifications because the facial features do not perfectly match securely recognized portraits of the queen. Coins with Cleopatra's image are historically valuable, but they do not prove that her body was placed nearby. A ruler's currency could circulate throughout her kingdom and appear at sites she never personally visited. The discoveries confirm that Taposiris Magna was important during Cleopatra's lifetime, but importance alone cannot identify a royal tomb. Each artifact therefore adds another piece to the puzzle without revealing the queen's final chamber. In 2022, the archaeological mission announced the discovery of a rock-cut tunnel beneath the temple area at Taposiris Magna. The passage was approximately 2 meters high and extended for more than 1,000 meters underground. Parts of the tunnel had become submerged, apparently because earthquakes and geological changes affected the ancient coastline. Its construction has been compared with the ancient tunnel of Eupalinos on the Greek island of Samos. Ceramic vessels, pottery fragments, and stone remains were recovered from mud and water within the underground system. The tunnel created worldwide excitement because it suggested that more structures might remain hidden beneath or beyond the known temple. Some reports presented it as a potential path leading directly toward Cleopatra's burial chamber. Archaeologically, however, the tunnel may have been built to transport water rather than to provide access to a tomb. Its date, full purpose, and relationship to the temple complex still require careful investigation. The tunnel is a remarkable discovery, but describing it as the entrance to Cleopatra's tomb goes far beyond the available evidence. Many historians question why Cleopatra would have been buried far from the center of her capital. Ancient sources connect her final days, Antony's death, and their mausoleum directly with the royal quarter of Alexandria. Octavian controlled the city and arranged their burial, making a secret journey to a distant temple less likely. Transporting 2 royal bodies outside Alexandria would also have required organization that ancient observers might have recorded. No surviving source explicitly states that Cleopatra planned to be buried at Taposiris Magna. The connection to Isis and Osiris is meaningful, but could apply to many temples across Ptolemaic Egypt. Cleopatra promoted her association with Isis throughout her kingdom, so religious imagery alone cannot establish a burial location. The tombs discovered at Taposiris Magna have not yet produced inscriptions naming Cleopatra or Mark Antony. Skeptics therefore argue that the search has uncovered an important sacred center rather than the lost mausoleum. Until direct evidence appears, Taposiris Magna must remain an intriguing hypothesis instead of a confirmed solution. If Cleopatra was buried near her palace, the tomb may now lie beneath the crowded streets of modern Alexandria. The ancient city has been continuously occupied, demolished, rebuilt, and expanded for more than 2,000 years. New buildings often stand above layers containing Greek, Egyptian, Roman, Byzantine, Islamic, and modern remains. Large-scale excavation is difficult because archaeologists cannot simply remove neighborhoods to search for a single lost monument. Underground water, unstable soil, utility lines, traffic, and building foundations make deep exploration even more complicated. Parts of the royal quarter may also lie beneath later structures near Alexandria's shoreline. The tomb could survive only a few meters from places visited by thousands of people every day. It might also have been broken apart and incorporated into newer buildings without anyone recognizing its original purpose. Ground-penetrating radar and other non-invasive technologies may eventually identify hidden chambers beneath accessible areas. For now, modern Alexandria protects its secrets beneath a city that cannot easily be opened. If Cleopatra's tomb survives intact, it could become one of the most important archaeological discoveries ever made. In reality, an intact chamber filled with gold is less likely than a damaged, looted, or partially submerged monument. Octavian had strong reasons to seize Cleopatra's treasury after conquering Egypt. Ancient thieves, later builders, and natural disasters may have removed whatever the Romans left behind. Even an empty chamber could transform history if it contained inscriptions naming Cleopatra and Antony. Their remains might reveal information about age, health, ancestry, burial practices, and the methods used to preserve their bodies. Identifying Cleopatra through DNA would be extremely challenging because no securely identified close relative is currently available for comparison. The tomb's architecture and religious decoration could reveal how Cleopatra combined Greek royal traditions with Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife. A bilingual inscription could even preserve her official account of the war that Roman writers described from the victor's perspective. The greatest treasure might therefore be not gold, but Cleopatra's own version of her life, defeat, and final choices. More than 2,000 years after Cleopatra's death, her tomb remains lost somewhere between history, archaeology, and legend. Ancient testimony makes Alexandria the strongest traditional location for the mausoleum she shared with Antony. Underwater ruins prove that important sections of her royal city now rest beneath the Mediterranean Sea. The streets of modern Alexandria may conceal other surviving sections beneath foundations and layers of later history. Taposiris Magna offers a competing possibility supported by religious symbolism and significant Ptolemaic discoveries. Nevertheless, neither location has produced the decisive evidence needed to solve the mystery. Cleopatra's tomb may be submerged, buried, destroyed, looted, or still hidden behind a sealed doorway. Do you believe the queen remains beneath Alexandria, or did she choose a sacred temple where no Roman enemy would think to search? Share your theory in the comments and send this video to someone fascinated by the unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. Subscribe and turn on notifications as we continue searching for the secrets that history tried to bury forever.